I never knew my dad. He left my mom and I when I was just a baby. That would have been okay if it wasn't for the fact that my mom was a psycho. But before I go on, make sure you like and subscribe and hit that notification bell. If you do, your parents will finally stop being so annoying. Trust me, it really works. It was always just me and my mom. We spent all our time together. She said we didn't need anyone else. When I was young, I loved it. I thought I had the best mom in the world. But as I grew older, I wanted to spend time with my friends. I wanted to go to the movies and sleep over at friends' houses, but Mom never let me. She was actually really mean to me. One time, she said I could invite some of my mates over to the house. We could play soccer in the garden and they could stay for dinner. I couldn't believe it. Mom said she would get pizza. I was so excited. All the boys came over and we had a fun afternoon in the garden. I told them all to come into the house to eat. We were sitting in the lounge when suddenly the door burst open and Mom came in screaming. "What are you all doing here? Get out! Get out!" What was wrong with her? Why was she embarrassing me in front of my friends? My friends just looked at me and didn't know what to do. I'm sorry, I said. I think you'd better go. Mom always threw them out of the house. "And don't come back," she shouted after them. "Why are you so horrible?" I shouted at my mom. "I hate you." Mom would never buy me any trendy clothes. She always bought me the cheap clothes from last year's sales. The other kids at school would laugh at the way I dressed. I decided I was going to save all my pocket money and buy myself some new clothes. I eventually got enough money saved and went into town shopping. I was so happy to show Mom my new clothes. She just scowled when she saw them. "What a waste of money," she said. But I didn't care. She wasn't going to spoil it for me. I laid out my new clothes on the bed and went to take a shower. When I came out of the shower, I couldn't believe my eyes. My new clothes were on my bed, all cut into little pieces. I looked out of the door and saw my mom standing there laughing. "That will teach you to waste your money on new clothes," she said, laughing. Why would she do that? Why did she want to make my life so miserable? Did she blame me for Dad leaving her? I used to dream that I had a different mom, one that was nice to me and all of my friends. I wished that I would wake up one day and a new mom would be living with me. I never expected that that day would come true. I was late home from school that afternoon. I had been kept behind for messing around in the science class. I ran home because I knew that Mom would be angry with me for being late. I ran into the kitchen and looked around for Mom. She must be upstairs, I thought. "Mom, I'm home," I shouted. But there was no answer. That was when I saw the note. It said, "Oliver," on the front of the envelope, so I knew it was for me. I opened the envelope and read the note inside. "Dear Oliver, I'm sorry. I can't live here anymore. Don't try to find me. Love, Mom." What? Surely this was a joke. I ran upstairs to Mom's room. Her wardrobe was empty. Oh my God, it was true. I had finally got my wish. Mom had left me. I was so happy. I ran downstairs and into the kitchen. I was just about to get myself something to eat when I heard a knock on the door. My heart dropped. Surely this wasn't Mom coming back. I went to open the door, fully expecting to see my mom standing there. But it was a man. He looked at me and smiled. "Oliver?" he asked. "Yes," I answered. "I'm your dad." I just stood there in shock. I didn't know what to say. "I've been looking for you for 15 years, he said. "You were going to come to live with me and my wife." He told me to pack my things together, and pretty soon we set off in his car to his house. When we arrived at his house, a lady opened the door. She looked at me, smiling. "This is your stepmom, Alice," said Dad. "And this is your sister, Jess, and your brother, Lucas." I looked at them all. They seemed so happy to see me. I couldn't believe my luck. Finally, I was going to have a loving mom and a brother and a sister, too. "Show Oliver to his room," said Alice. I followed Jess and Lucas up the stairs. They told me all about the new school I was going to go to. They were younger than me, but we would be at the same school. "Unpack your things and then come down for dinner," said Jess. She grinned at Lucas and he laughed back. I wonder what that was about. I took my time getting all my things ready in my room. When I eventually went down to dinner, they were all sitting at the table waiting for me. Dad didn't look very happy. "Come on, Oliver," he said. "We've been waiting for you and dinner's getting cold." I looked at Jess, but she just looked at Lucas and giggled. I didn't want to get off to a bad start, so I just said sorry and sat at the table. Maybe Jess had just got confused. The rest of the weekend went well. We all had so much fun. I forgot all about what had happened when I arrived. The first day at my new school was amazing. Jess and Lucas had lots of friends, and they were all super nice to me. The kids in my class were really nice too. At lunchtime, I headed to the school cafeteria. As I grabbed my lunch, I looked around for a place to sit. I noticed an empty chair and went over. "Hi, I'm Oliver," I said to the pretty girl sitting in the other seat. "Hi, Oliver," she said. "I'm Emily." Emily and I were soon chatting away. I couldn't believe how much we had in common. She liked the same TV shows as me, and we both loved playing video games. We even both laughed at the same silly jokes. "Let's meet for lunch again tomorrow," said Emily. "Sure," I replied. After that, Emily and I pretty much spent all our time at school together. Emily and I were perfect friends. The only strange thing was that Emily would never come to my house. I invited her over so many times, but she always made an excuse. She said she wasn't good at meeting other parents. I didn't mind though. Being with Emily at school was perfect. But being at home wasn't quite how I had thought it was going to be. I didn't know when it really started, but Alice started treating me differently. When Dad was home, everything was fine. But as soon as he left for work, Alice would change. "Go up to your room, Oliver," she would say. "You're in my way." I didn't want to make Alice angry, so I would just do as she said. One Saturday morning, we were all sitting having breakfast when Dad said, "I'm playing golf today, Alice. Why don't you take the kids to the movies?" My eyes lit up as Dad handed over a bundle of cash to Alice. "Go for a burger, too," he said. I loved going to the movies. Dad left and I ran upstairs to my room to get changed. A few minutes later, I heard Alice coming up the stairs. "What do you think you're doing, Oliver?" she asked. "I'm coming to the movies with you," I replied. "Oh, no, you're not," said Alice. "Look at the state of your room. You are going to stay at home and clean up." I looked at my room. It was really clean and tidy. I didn't know what Alice meant. I felt like crying, but I wasn't going to let Jess and Lucas think I was a baby. I watched out of my bedroom window as the three of them drove off in Alice's car. I decided I might as well do my homework. It took me a couple of hours, but I finally finished it. What to do now, I thought. I know, I'll explore the house. I hadn't really seen all of the house. I decided I would head to Dad's office first. I wanted to find out more about him. I opened the door and looked in. Dad had a big wooden desk with a computer on it. It looked very important. I went over and sat in his chair. I wondered what it would be like to be the boss of a big office like my dad. On the side of the desk was a tray with folders. I looked at the top one. The title on the front was 15-year contract. I was just about to pick it up to read it when suddenly the door burst open and in walked Dad. "Put that down!" shouted Dad at the top of his voice. I jumped. I looked at him. His face was so red and angry. I hadn't meant any harm. "I'm sorry, Dad," I said. "I didn't mean to do anything wrong." "Just go to your room, Oliver," said Dad. I ran upstairs. Why was everything going wrong? First Alice, now Dad was angry with me too. Monday morning came and I couldn't wait for lunchtime to see Emily. "What's up with you?" asked Emily as I sat down next to her. I told her all about my miserable weekend. "I just don't know what I've done wrong," I said. "I'm nice to Jess and Lucas. I always help Alice in the kitchen. Even Dad is angry with me now." "I know what you should do," said Emily. "You should run away." I looked at her doubtfully. I wasn't sure that was the answer. "Don't worry, leave it to me," said Emily. That evening, Emily sent me a text. She told me that she had explained it all to her mom. Her mom said that I shouldn't run away, but I was welcome to come and stay at their house for a night or two. I thought that was the best thing. Emily told me to pack a bag with a few clothes and meet her at the bus station the following morning instead of going to school. The next morning, I said goodbye to Dad and Alice and walked to the bus station. Emily was waiting for me when I got there. "Hurry up," she said. "Our bus has just pulled in." We jumped on the bus and paid the driver our money. I felt like I was going on an adventure. Emily was smiling at me. "This is going to be so much fun," she said. The bus trundled off down the road. Emily and I chatted and laughed, and it wasn't long before she said, "Next stop is ours." We got off the bus and started walking down the road. "Is it far to your house?" I asked her. "No, only 5 minutes," she said. She seemed a bit nervous. I suppose it's because I was going to meet her mom for the first time. We went round the corner and she stopped. "This is it," she said. "Are you ready?" We walked up the driveway towards the front door. As we approached, the door opened and I looked to see who was coming. "Mom?" I shouted. "What are you doing here?" "Waiting for you," she said. I looked at Emily. "What's going on, Emily?" I asked. "This is my mom. Why is she in your house?" "It's okay, come in," she said. "We will explain it all." I was speechless, but I followed Emily in. "It's okay, Mom, I'll tell Oliver," she said. Why was Emily calling my mom, Mom? "I'm your sister," said Emily. I looked at her confused. Then Mom went on to explain everything. "When your dad left me, he made me sign a contract. I could live with you for 15 years, but then you would go to live with him, and I could never see you again. That's why I was so mean to you. I thought if you hated me, you wouldn't be sad when I left. Emily has been living with your dad. Now it's her turn to live with me." This was madness. I looked at Emily. Was it really true? "I've missed you so much," said Mom. "I've missed you too," I said. "I want to live with you and Emily." "It's impossible," said Mom. "Your dad has the contract. He can take me to court." That's when I remembered the folder I had seen in Dad's office. "Come on, Emily, I know what we can do," I said. I grabbed Emily by the hand and we raced to catch the bus back to Dad's house. When we got there, I ran straight to Dad's office. Dad was sitting at his desk. He looked up in surprise. "Oliver, Emily," he gasped. "What are you doing?" I picked up the folder on Dad's desk and said, "I've come for this." Dad tried to grab it out of my hands, but Emily got there before him. She threw the contract into the open fire. Dad and Emily and I watched as it went up in flames. Dad's face fell. "I'm sorry, Dad. We are going to live with Mom," I said. It has now been a year since that dramatic day. We still see Dad every now and again. I like living with Mom, especially now that she doesn't have to be so psycho.